We've got the drum back. No
Hey,
more
everybody.
shaker.
There's Carter.
We're back in St. Augustine.
And this is the ZLORD podcast. Yeah. So, Carter, what's going on?
Well, we're home.
Yeah, we're home. We've been away for months and months, and 2 hurricanes have done a lot of stuff to Florida where we live.
Yeah, and we've had an unusual occurrence for you. Spent the day in the ER last night due to this funny little vertigo. I had a vertigo episode in camping in Maine, where I spent the day at the ER in Portland, and they determined that it was a benign positional vertigo, which means that it's crystals get in your ear and you got to shake them out.
For those of you who don't know what Carter's talking about, this is actually quite a common occurrence, so look it up. It's called calcium crystals in the inner ear. It's very interesting if you've never heard of it.
But I'd never had it before, and I thought I was having a permanent stroke and my life was finished. But at any rate, they fixed it.
But it wasn't finished. He's here to tell the tale.
But so they, after one day, they declared everything great, and I was just have to work it through, and it'll go away, and there's no bad complications. So a month went by or so, something like that, 6 weeks.
No, it's been a month.
And teZa comes up with vertigo, and she's never had vertigo
I thought,
either.
oh my God, we are cosmic twins. Everything that happens to Carter has to happen to me. We both have had hip surgeries, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to know all the gory details.
She got the same thing, and so she started doing the same Epley maneuvers, and then she's having a surgery. So one of the things is that it could be something else. It's not the only thing it could be.
It could always be something else.
So they said, well, she's got to go to the ER and do the CT scan just to rule out the fact that she might have an arterial type of a thing, which is a circulatory thing, just to rule it out because.
And I just laughed and I said, "Come on!"
She didn't even want to go. But
I'm teZa.
I made her go, and she went.
The yoga queen. Nothing can happen to me.
Lo and behold, that's what she had.
Yes.
And it would have been very dangerous for her to go get her surgery.
Just 1 minute, Carter. It was a very humbling moment where I had to admit that I was not invincible. It was very hard to admit.
Yeah, if I hadn't pushed you to go, you wouldn't have gone either.
I wouldn't have. I went pissed off.
Anyway.
But it saved my life, maybe, because maybe.
It saved you from getting a stroke. We don't want a stroke.
Yeah, so what it is, basically, and we're going to talk about something else, folks, so hold on. It's basically, the topic is how life has these sudden changes and shocks. We have to adapt to them. But my shock was to be told that I really have to change a lot of my lifestyle, my way of doing things, and to just chill more because there's a tear.
Yeah, you got to get a handle on.
in the artery that's feeding blood from my heart to my brain. So that's pretty serious stuff, okay? So
it's not the carotid, but it's the ones in the back.
Not the carotid. So that's it in a nutshell. And so the subject today is, what do we do when we're facing sudden, shocking changes that are beyond our control?
Well,
and maybe we're going to be sensing that soon, because right now everybody's choosing who's going to be the next president of the United States.
Isn't that a big deal going on?
And in the next, today is what? Today's the last day of October. So within this time next week, there's going to be a lot of people who are feeling like I am about my physical body, but they're going to feel that way. At least, 50% of the people in America.
Half the people are going to be very glad, and the other half are going to be very unhappy.
So sudden, shocking change can happen to anybody.
It's amazing it's so close. Yeah. It's just astounding that there's so much on the line.
But we're not talking politics. We're just saying
it's so close.
The sudden, shocking change of life is something that we all can expect.
But that brings us to what I think is the most important thing that we've been working on in the last few months, and that is for me to be aware that at all times I am in the kingdom and in the presence, and that I just have to be aware of it, and that even though everything isn't perfect,
in the kingdom of what?
In the kingdom of the divine.
Oh, Okay.
and that I'm.
I thought you
I'm
were
in
going to the zoo or
No,
something.
I'm in the kingdom of the spirit world, and that my spirit is a huge is an equal or maybe even bigger part of my life than my physical, and that I can access it anytime I slow down long enough and become aware that it's all surrounding me and in me and everywhere, and that all the things that I think are not perfect or need to be changed or need this and need that have a certain perfection in them already because they are, and they are just the lack of perfection of it a lot of the time is my lack of seeing it, that it's perfect as it is. And even though there may be something going on that I don't like, it has more to do with the fact that that's the way it should be and that I need to accept it than it is the way that, I need to be changing the way I think about it and feel about it. So this is the thing we've been working on in the last couple of months. Actually, you're the one that glommed onto that. It came to our attention, and I kind of passed it by.
Glommed on? What do you mean? Like,
well, you were the one that kept
what aspect of
talking about
wait,
it.
you said a whole bunch of stuff, Carter, which was marvelous. I'm sitting here totally enraptured, like, are you married? I want to be with you. No, I want your baby. Oh. No, I'm just thinking, like, God. You just said a whole bunch of stuff, and then you said, I'm the one who glommed onto it. I mean, what part of that amazing display of like being in the moment that you said that I brought, like the kingdom thing?
Yeah.
I mean, like really honoring the fact that we are always in the kingdom.
In the kingdom.
Even if shit's happening.
Even if stuff that we don't like is happening.
Right.
That's right, that we are. If I didn't get it at first, you kept talking about it, and I said, what's he talking about in the kingdom? And I suddenly had the revelation that we are all of us, whether we're aware of it or not, every one of us we're in the kingdom. We're in the kingdom of the divine.
It's being in the groove, but being in the flow, being in the divine grace, being in the moment. That's really what that is.
Well, we're in the moment and in the divine grace, but we're not necessarily in the groove, because if we don't feel it, we're not in the groove. What I'm saying is that what it meant to me, maybe you understand it differently, but to me, being in the kingdom means that I look out through my eyes at the world. That's the kingdom. This is the kingdom. Everything here is the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing, has been a great thing for me to think about.
It's not in the hereafter. It's not when you die and go to heaven, which is...
It's not somewhere out there. We're in it right now.
We're in it right now.
And God is with us, and the divine is with us, and we just need to be... Carter, need to tune in and be aware. And the more that I'm aware, the more it unfolds and the bigger it gets and the more interesting and more exciting it gets.
So let's just assume, just for the sake of having an interesting perspective on this, that it is a week from now and whoever it is that you voted for did not win. How are you going to tell yourself that you're still in the kingdom?
I have to accept. I have to accept that that's the will of the people. And I'm living in a country where we are freer than most places, but that's the way we do things. And if we vote, and there are more people that vote for the guy that I'm not for, well, that's for me to accept. And I remember some years ago, when my great friend Al Burson, somehow his name keeps coming up in these things.
He should be a third member of our podcast.
But he was actually
Al?
one of Obama's czars. He was in Obama's cabinet, and he was in charge of the entire United States border. He's a big guy in politics, and he's one of the smartest people alive. And I remember his candidate lost. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the Gore-Bush campaign, and Gore lost by about 3 votes. On a hanging chad that is still questionable, and it could. I mean, if it was going on now, there'd be screaming and yelling and a civil war over it because of saying somebody's cheating. But these things are complicated, man. There's a lot. But anyway,
plus Florida is no longer a Democrat; they've completely switched.
Yeah, and Gore accepted
the intervening years.
But Gore accepted it right away. He was very manly about it, and just like Nixon accepted the thing where when Kennedy.
But we're not talking
that ain't-
politics.
but, no,
just
but what I'm saying
We're
is
talking
this.
Feelings.
What I'm saying is that Al's attitude was on that close thing, and he was vested heavily into the Democratic side. He and I were talking, and he said, well, he called me up and he said, how you doing? Because I'm more conservative. And he said, I said, jeepers, Al, what do you think about this election? He said, well, the people have spoken. Now we got to roll up our sleeves and get on the same page and see what we can get done in this wonderful country we have. This is his immediate attitude.
Amen to
I
that.
said, God bless
and all
you,
women.
Al.
Our women and our men.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that's my charge completely. I'm not going to be upset no matter what happens. I'm just going to accept what it is and try to continue to do my part.
Okay, now you've had your chance to
What
talk
about you?
About some other party. I would like to just share. I was really a little upset the other day when I got a regular update email from one of my favorite spiritual teachers, and I will not name names, but it was a very highly regarded spiritual teacher, because that's my world. My world is spirit and art and expression through creativity. It's not politics. It's not anything else. And so in this letter, the teacher was imploring people to do the right thing and to vote, because this is the most important election, and our country is, at the crossroads of something imminent. And the tone was borderline hysterical, and it just smacked of all the little sound bites that I've been hearing from the media, and my shoulders just drooped, and I said, oh my God, this person has just been listening to all the media instead of being impartial, which a spiritual teacher and a religious leader of any sort ought to be, and ought to say that just you vote with your own individual heart and not according to all the controversy and all the vitriolic
the fear.
There's so much fear, and so I wrote back immediately to this teacher, and I said, I am so disappointed to hear that you're promoting a certain candidate who's going to be like it's going to save the world. And I just think the people who think that politicians are going to save the world have their heads screwed on backwards, because I don't think spirit is going to be manifested through politics right now. I think that politics is so divorced from spirit that we who are in tune with the divine, the sacred, the compassionate, the loving, however you want to call it, the godly, the righteous, we know that politics is not the answer. It's how each one of us acts, each individual, how we act to our family, to our dog, to our tribe of friends.
To the waitress.
To the waitress, to the driver in front of us, how we act person to person. And so, we have politics. It's just a part of life in this day and age, and it has been for quite a few years. And the democracy of America is not going to be shattered just because of one election. There are so many checks and balances. And I was telling Carter the other day, I was a legal student when I was in college, and and even in high school I studied civics. Anybody who's taken a basic civics course knows that there are so many checks and balances in our beautiful American system. It is not going to be run over with a Mack truck just because of one person being elected. So
that's not all you told me.
What did I tell you? Oh,
you're
going to tell him the grit.
You told me that anybody that studied civics, heck, even I know that, and I learned that before I got kicked out for bad behavior.
Right? Yeah, in college.
So you learned that early on.
Well, everybody who listens to ZLORD knows I make no secret about the fact that I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict for 40 years. And so I have a little bit of sanity, I must say. I have a little tiny grasp of sanity.
I give you credit for honesty.
A little tiny grasp. But, to keep politics out of the discussion, let's talk more about what we do when we're shocked by life, when sudden change happens. Like, let's say somebody dies who we really love. Like Carter and I have been talking about that. This is like not a warning, but it's a precursor to the fact that we have to have our P's and Q's in place about our lifestyle, about our possessions, about our, energy that we are blessed with. Still, we have great health, we have good energy, and we want to be smart. We want to have a joyous time here on Earth. We don't want to be handicapped.
I heard a great discussion about this last night.
You're not going on
from
a segue,
somebody,
are you?
Yeah, somebody smart who was a godly, divine human being, this person. And she was saying just exactly about this. She says that she was talking to her daughter about spiritual things, and her daughter was very much didn't want to talk about it and didn't want to know about it, and she was trying to explain it in words that her daughter could understand, and just about this, what happens. And she says, you're young, you're going out there and have a good life, you're going to do your thing, but you're going to run into these tornadoes, and you're going to bounce off of them. They're going to bounce off of you. There's going to be the tornado of your car breaking down. There's going to be the tornado of you losing a lot of money. There's going to be the tornado of breaking up with the relationship. There's going to be all these tornadoes, and you are going to have to stand back and navigate and maneuver your way through these things. And you're gonna get shocked by all kinds of different things, and me and you and everybody that's listening to this, the shock is coming. We're gonna have the shock. The only question is, how are we gonna what are we gonna do about it? And that's what you're asking. The question.
So wait a minute. What was the punchline that
the
mom
punchline
told the daughter?
Was that the daughter softened and said, "Oh, that's interesting. I can understand that. I can relate to that." And so she got the message. Is what it was that her mother, who was a very kind of divine, vocally divine lady, was able to communicate that profound idea that you have to be a rock, and you have to deal with all the shocks that you're getting in some reasonable, accepting way, so that you accept these shocks and that you don't get thrown off in your life by them. And that's a universal truth, which is a kind of a spiritual truth, and giving it to her in a different language that she could understand. So.
Okay. So, I mean, whether it's happening in society, the shock of not having what we wanted to be the result of our vote, or of getting a weird diagnosis from a doctor, or being stood up at the altar. Where's the other half of this marriage? We ran off. Shocks do come.
We're going to get shocked.
We're going to get shocked. Just like we know eventually all of us die, we all know that eventually all of us are going to have to deal with sudden change, sudden shocks, and to be prepared for them. So for me, I think that it's also practice makes perfect. When we're young, like Carter's story, like a young person will just be blown away by the first shock that comes along. They'll think, it's me, it's just me. Why is it all happening to me? I know I used to feel that way. And then when I realized, oh, it's not just me. Everybody alive goes through it. Then I realized that it's part of the journey. And the journey is not just a smooth ride from one day to the next. Sometimes we have to deal with emergencies. And it's really good to meet emergencies with as much calm and centeredness as we can, so that we make good decisions and so that we are not blown away by them, right? And that takes a little bit of self-control. That takes also practice. So we all get better as we are presented with all the different shocks.
Yeah, and if I remember and stay aware that all this that's going on is just part of the kingdom. This is the kingdom. We're in it. Then it's much easier for me to be calm and accepting about events that happen and not get all blown away. Like my other friend who said he was so depressed because there were so many people in the world now, and we were just destroying the planet. He went on and on with the local stuff, and I said, did you see the Guardian article about the black hole laser that had a laser that was shooting out like something like 150 light years from the black hole, that it was the most extraordinary thing in some other,
Galaxy?
billions of galaxies
Whoa.
from here. I says, when you think about something like
Whoa,
that, this
that's
little
mind-blowing.
Mickey Mouse stuff that we've got going on here, I mean, we are so tiny that our job is to just be in tune with the cosmos and the universe. And when we become overcome, when Carter becomes overcome with the minutia of his little daily problems, then the quicker I can plug into the awareness that I'm a speck in this cosmos.
But you brought up a very important point, Carter, because I know the person to whom you are referring who was expressing his depression, and we must tell our listeners that that person really, really presents, and he claims to be an atheist, even though it's vocabulary, it's vernacular.
He's not an atheist.
No,
for sure.
we know in our hearts, but he's adamantly. If anybody talks about God, he'll say he doesn't believe. He just believes in nature, but he believes that mankind is screwing everything up. But our viewpoint, our understanding of the relationship of humanity, you and I, we have this agreement that the divine manifests in humanity. I mean, really, one of the ways that we can feel the closest to humanity is to understand, not to be close to humanity, to be close to the divine, is to understand that the divine acts through humans.
It's the only way we can feel it. We have to approach it through our humanity, because that's the tool. That's what we live in, and so we have to understand.
That's our
the
common
divine
denominator
through our
with
little,
life.
getting splinters and stepping on the sand spur and all the little things that happen to us is what takes us to our understanding of the divine. That's how we get there.
Yeah, and for one person to curse humanity because of overpopulation or pollution, or it's all their fault, it's all the fact that, there's too many humans, that's to me, it's like being in denial. It's being in denial of the fact that there's a great source of comfort if we can change our thinking and accept the fact that the human interaction is our greatest challenge. And how close we are to the divine. I mean by that, like how happy we can feel.
It's the
in our life is how we interact with the rest of humanity, or choose to distance ourselves. That also is the way we interact, like practicing discrimination and saying, that particular person has really become toxic, and to be in relationship with that person is a downer. It's bringing the energy of life to a standstill.
It's the only way. It's the only way we can. And that's the never-ending, endless challenge. And it's a school we're in here. It's really a school.
Yeah.
And our job is to plug into the cosmos and recognize our smallness, and at the same time realize our largeness as a human, because we're large. We're part of God. We're made in the image of God, and this is the kingdom. This is what it looks like.
We are one with God.
This
God is us,
like.
and we are God. There's nothing that is not the divine. I mean, I've been reading about Michael, the great archangel. Apparently, in the historical record, he is the brother of Lucifer. And Michael and Lucifer had a big fight, according to all the theologians that are reported. And Michael, Archangel Michael, is the one who threw Lucifer out of heaven. This is all metaphorical speaking. And Lucifer became Satan. There was no Satan before that. That was the beginning of Satan.
I'm not sure if it's metaphorical. It might be in the scripture, but I don't know much about that.
Well,
I don't know about Michael. I just have missed that somewhere along the line.
I'm just
It's
telling you
probably
about my
revelation.
researches because it was one of our assignments in our study group, as was what Carter started with earlier, to really embrace that concept of being in the kingdom every moment of our existence. That's not something that we just came up with, like, this is a good thing for Carter and teZa to think about, but we belong to a study group, and we go into these very fascinating concepts, and we spend a lot of time thinking about each one of our assignments. So the Archangel Michael was an assignment, And so that's how I happened to do the research about what material there is available. No, there's not much. And I think artists and poets and writers have done a lot more with the Archangel Michael than it's actually documented in the Bible. From what I can understand, that's his origin. He somehow was, probably one of the first created. If Lucifer and Michael were brothers, we're talking about like some pretty ancient stuff that's recorded in the Bible.
It's my understanding that we were all created at the same instant.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm not a scholar.
There's different schools of thought about it.
Yeah, we're getting into areas that neither one of us are scholars about.
But one last thing, just while we're on this subject, and that is that one of the things that is not helpful in this whole thing is when you're around a situation where somebody wants to put blame. Once they want to blame, there's a lot of blaming going on. Mm-hmm. And some intelligent person said, there's plenty of blame to go around for everybody. So the idea of trying to find out who's wrong, who's to blame, and then blame it on that guy and figure that you've solved the problem by blaming it on somebody and then pinpointing him, that's a fool's errand. And but it's just a waste of time, and it's a low level.
That comes from victim consciousness. I know myself because I used to be that way. When a person,
we all blame.
No, not truly. When somebody becomes more conscious about what they're doing, they can say, "Oh, there I go again, blaming."
Yeah.
It's like if something goes wrong in the house, I will say, "Oh, Carter, you did it again." That's a natural thing for people who live together. But really, every time I examine that, it's, "Oh, teZa, you're the one who really did it." But it's so easy to blame
you're starting
somebody.
to get with the program.
Now
we're starting to get to the truth.
It's much easier to blame another person, another source, another object. And it's a natural thing to do. But I think with awareness, people can change that. So I catch myself often, like, just in our domestic thing, I'll want to blame you. I'll want to blame you. Even if I don't actually speak it, I'll say, "Oh man, I really want to blame Carter." But I know that that's just me being lazy.
Well, it's universal. So that's a clue that it's not going the right. We're not thinking about it correctly. If we start thinking about whose fault this is.
And so for people who blame politics or blame a certain politician or blame a society or blame
as soon as that comes,
overpopulation,
you're not hearing something that's worth listening to. The minute that starts, you should just check out of the conversation and go think about higher things.
Well, because there's always some other perspective. There's always some other choice that we can make when we get ourselves into a negative rut. And we can always look at it like, okay, now instead of being depressed about the fact that I was given warning that I have to make some changes with my life, I'm not going to spend any more time being shocked about it. I've already taken some action. I've called the best medical center in the area to see if I can get in. I've already decided that I need to tweak my diet, and eating habits and drinking habits and exercise habits and all these things that we can do, and they all add up. And the most important thing is to really be aware of where stress is, because stress can be very subtle. I mean, one sometimes is not aware about how stressful a life is until something like this happens, where you have an event, you have a medical event, and then you find out, the number one cause of medical problems, whether it's a disease or an actual heart attack or, a stroke or whatever an event could be, it's usually stress related. So there's a lot that we can all do. And even approaching the subject of how to deal with shock or change is to tell myself, I'm really just going to accept it as a part of life and not get stressed about it. That's how I'm looking at it right now.
There you go.
So anything else you want to add about that?
No,
part?
that's
you got
good.
Any stressors going on about letting go of anything? You and I have decided we're going to start downsizing, which means letting go of possessions, and especially like art projects.
Lighten the load a little bit around here.
That's going to be an interesting way of lightening, yes, and getting rid of stress. Like when you have more possessions, you have more stress.
All of us here in this country have too many possessions.
Too many
everybody.
things to take care of or keep track
especially.
of. And so that's going to be a fun time. We've already made some plans.
Okay.
Okay, so we send our love to everyone.
Sayonara. Thanks for listening.
And please, if you're feeling shocked
Great
or
to be
sad or
back.
about whatever's going on, either in your life or the country or whatever circumstances, just remember it's just part of the journey. And we can accept it with love
Okay.
and self-compassion. Om Namah
Next
Shivaya.
time.